Jai Hind, dear children, you are aware of the serious situation we are facing because of COVID 19. It has turned everything upside down in our life. All that we can do is to keep the pandemic at an arm's length. So, follow the safety measures like wearing masks, washing hands, using sanitizers without any fail. Last class we discussed about economics chapter money and credit. First we have a detailed explanation about what is money and what is the meaning of the term credit. Then we moved directly into the chapter by studying in detail about the condition of economic process in our ancient society. Because in ancient society there exists the barter system or barter exchange. Then we studied the main demerit in the barter system, that is double coincidence of bonds. And what are the problems created by the double coincidence of bonds in transaction process? Then we also study about why money is accepted as a medium of exchange and what are the characteristic features of money to accept it as a medium of exchange. Then about the modern forms of money, which includes paper notes, coins, and also about deposit with banks or about the main merits of the demand deposits. Then we studied why Reserve Bank of India is considered as the epic bank of India and also about minting of coins. Then we studied about check and the facilities of check in transactions. Next we studied about the loan activities of bank, functions of bank, then about the major or the main source of income of banks. Then we move to study in detail about the merits and demerits of credit or loans with the help of two examples. One is Salim, which gives us a positive outlook, and another one is Sopna, which gives us a negative impact about the credit system in our country. Then with the help of Sapna, we studied how credit play a crucial role in rural areas of India. Today we are going to study another topic related to this chapter, that is terms of credit. So first we want to know what is terms of credit. The interest rate, collateral, documentation requirement and the mode of repayment together comprises what is called terms of credit. So once again, what is terms of credit? The interest rate, collateral, documentation requirement and mode of repayment together comprises what is called terms of credit. So we want to study in detail about the terms of credit. So the first one is interest rate or rate of interest, which belong to this terms of credit. So what is interest rate? Interest rate is one which the borrower must pay to the lender along with repayment of the principal amount. So once again, what is interest rate? Interest rate is one which the borrower must pay to the lender along with repayment of the principal amount. So second one is a collateral. So here we are studying a new term, that is collateral. So what is collateral? It is an asset that the borrower owns, such as land, building, vehicle, livestock, or deposits with banks and uses this as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. So once again, what is collateral? It is an asset that the borrower owns, such as land, building, vehicle, livestock, deposit with banks, and uses this as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. It is called as a collateral. The third one is documentation required. It means that a lender's requirement regarding how information about income and asset must be provided by the applicant and how it will be used by the lender. that is known as documentation required, or in other terms, document showing employment records and salary before the bank, that means salary records or salary certificates before the bank to agree to give the loan. It is known as documentation required. So once again, what is documentation required? It means that a lender's requirement regarding how information about income and assets must be provided by the applicant and how it will be used by the lender, or in other words, it can also be considered as the document showing employment records and salary certificates before the bank to agree to give the loan. It is known as documentation required. The fourth one is the mode of repayment or the repayment plan. This means how the borrower would repay the lender his or her loan amount. For example, on monthly basis or quarterly, half-yearly or yearly basis. This may vary depending on the nature of the lender and the borrower. So once again, the fourth one is the mode of repayment. This means how the borrower would repay the lender his or her loan amount. For example, on monthly basis or quarterly, half-yearly or yearly basis. This may vary on the nature of the lender and the borrower. And these terms of credit vary substantially from one credit arrangement to another. And at the same time, if the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender has the right to sell the asset or collateral to obtain payment. So these are the most important points related to the terms of credit, and this terms of credit is very important while we are availing a loan or a credit from a bank. Now we are going to study some of the varieties of credit and the various types of terms of credits also. So first of all, we are going to study about home credit or a house loan or home loan. In your textbook, you are having an example for this home credit or home loan. That is the example of Megha. Megha approached the bank for a home credit of 5 lakhs. The interest rate, that is the annual interest of the bank, is 12%. From this example, it's very clear for you about the terms of credit, because for this home loan she want to pay an interest rate of 12%, and the mode of repayment is that it is to be paid in 10 years in monthly basis. That is a mode of repayment of this home credit. The documentation required for this home loan to make her is she want to submit documents showing her employment record and her salary certificate to avail the loan from the bank. At the same time, apart from all these, bank asked some collateral also from her as a security, and here she gave the papers of her new house, and at the same time bank also agreed to return the papers when she repaid the entire loan with the interest. From this example, I hope it is very clear to you about the terms of credit when we are going to the bank, especially commercial bank, to avail loans from there, because the interest rate, the mode of repayment, collateral and documentation required, all these are very important for availing a loan from the bank. This is the way bank, especially commercial banks, always transact with the public in loan activities. Next, we are going to study about the conditions of various farmers in rural areas who avail loans from the banks, and what are the various reasons that force them to avail loans from the banks. So we can understand in detail about the condition of farmers, poor household farmers in rural areas with the help of 3 examples. And now we are going to study about the first example, that is the example of Shamal. He was a small farmer in Sonpur in the state of Bihar. He belonged to an irrigated village. Then also every year he want to take loans to cultivate in his 1.5 acres of land. At first, he collected loans from the money lenders at an interest rate of 5% per month. But from the last few years, he was borrowing from an agriculture trader at an interest rate of 3% per month. The farmers are helping the agriculture traders by supplying farm inputs as credit, which is to be repaid after harvest. And also the farmer wants to sell his crops to that trader only who is helping him with loans at low prices, and the trader after that can sell the crops at high price and can earn a lot of profit. This type of traders and credit can be familiar in rural areas. From this example itself, we can understand that these traders are a boon to the poor farmers in rural areas, as well as these traders are a curse to the poor farmers in rural areas. So, the first example makes us understand how the poor farmers and poor household in the rural areas, they are facing a lot of problems as a result of the credit or loans. Next is the case of Rama. She is an agriculture laborer and she is also a landless laborer. In a year, these landless laborers like Rama had to go through many months without a job, and during these months they were forced to take loans from landowners in the areas to meet their daily expenses. And here Rama also availed a loan from a landowner at an interest rate of 5% per month, and she wanted to repay the loan by working in the landowner's family. As she is not treating well by the landowner, but Rama was forced to work there because she was of the opinion that for a landless laborer like her, the only option to avail a loan is these landowners. So they were ready to do anything for them to overcome their poverty. In rural areas, apart from poor farmers like Megha and Rama, there are some other big farmers who make use of these agriculture loans to earn more profit. Now we are going to study the example of such a case which creates positive effects in rural areas itself with the help of a credit. That is the case of Arun. He owns 7 acres of land and he received a loan from bank at an interest rate of 8.5 per annum, and mode of repayment of the loan is 3 years. Arun can repay the loan in the same time by selling a part of the crop, and he decided to store his harvest in the cold storage, and with the receipt of the cold storage he decided to take a new loan. So in the case of Arun, and like others who belong to this category of Arun, this credit creates only positive effects. Apart from banks and money lenders, another one which is working well and considered as a major source of cheap credit for poor agriculturists in rural areas are cooperative societies or cooperatives. The main aim of these cooperatives is that their members pool their resources for cooperation in certain areas. So once again, what is the main aim of these cooperative societies? Their main aim is that their members pool their resources for cooperation in certain areas. There are several types of cooperatives or cooperative societies working in our country, like the farmers cooperatives, giving importance to the farmers in rural areas, the weavers cooperatives, helping different types of weavers in our country, and the workers cooperatives or the industrial workers cooperatives, helping the workers, the poor workers in the industrial areas. The functioning of the cooperatives is like they form members, then accept deposits from its members, then With these deposits as collateral, these cooperatives obtain a large loan from the bank, and then the cooperatives used these funds, that means the money they get from loan, to provide loans to its members. So once again, what is the functioning of the cooperatives? The functioning of the cooperative is like they form members, that means they form a group, then accept deposits from its members, then beat these deposit amount as collateral. These cooperatives obtain a large loan from the bank, and then the cooperative used these funds, that means money that they get from loans, to provide loans to its members. Once these loans are repaid, then another round of lending can take place. These cooperatives are always availing loans for purchasing agriculture implements, loans for cultivation and agriculture trade, fishery loans for construction of houses, and for a variety of other expenses. So once again, once these loans are repaid by a particular cooperative society, then another round of lending can take place, and mainly these cooperatives, they are availing loans for purchasing agriculture implements, loans for cultivation, then agriculture trade, fishery loans for construction of houses, and also for a variety of other expenses. Next topic we want to study is the formal sector credit in India. In this topic, we want to study in detail about the difference between the formal sector loans and the informal sector loans. So first of all, we will study in detail about the difference between the formal sector loans and informal sector loans. First of all, we are going to study in detail about the main features of the formal sector or formal source of credit in India. So in formal sector, the sources of credit are registered by the government and have to follow the rules and regulations of the government. So the first main feature of the formal sector is that in formal sector, the sources of credit are registered by the government and they have to follow all the rules and regulations of the government. The second feature of the formal sectors is that comparatively, the rate of interest is very low in this formal sector loans. So once again, the rate of interest of this formal sector loans is very low. Another feature of the formal sector is that collateral and the documentation required is very important, or it is a must for getting loans in this area. So another important feature of the formal sector is that collateral and documentation required is a must for getting loans. The main motive of the formal sector is social welfare. That means they are working for the well-being of the society, not for earning profit. So once again, the main motive of this formal sector is social welfare and not for earning profit. An informal sector, it is the Reserve Bank of India, considered as the apex bank of India, is having the right to supervise their functions of giving loans. So once again, informal sector, it is the RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India, otherwise known as the apex bank of India, is having the right to supervise the functions, that means the function of the formal sectors of giving loans. Another feature of this formal sector is that in a formal sector, the loans are mainly taken by the rich urban household, or the rich urban household depend mainly on these formal sector loans, as they are having collateral and documentation required, because collateral and documentation is very important in availing loans from the formal sector. But for the poor household in rural areas, they are not that much familiar with the formalities of this bank process, so they will mainly rely on money lenders to lend loans. Sometimes the poor in these rural areas, they are not having any collateral or any documentations also. So these types of loans, that means the loans in the formal sectors, are mainly taken by the rich urban household, because they are having collateral and whatever documentation is needed for these loans, that also they are having. Because of that, these loans were mainly taken by the rich urban household. Another feature is that the former sector is an organized banking sector. So it is always systematic in its all functions. So once again, as former sector is an organized banking sector, it is always systematic in its all functions. As former sector is organized, its financial intermediaries maintain proper books of account, and their books of account are regularly audited also. As a result of all these, we can say that the way of financing in this former sector is 100% transparent. So once again, as former sector is organized, its financial intermediaries maintain proper books of accounts, and their books of accounts are regularly audited also. As a result of all these facilities, we can say that the way of functioning of the former sector is 100% transparent. Former sector, they usually grants loans for productive purposes like purchase of machinery, agriculture equipments, houses, etc. So once again, the former sector, they usually grants loans for productive purposes like purchase of machinery, agriculture equipments, houses, etc. Examples for the former sector is banks and cooperatives. And in former sector, the terms of credit are fair and reasonable, and it involves many formalities also. So once again, examples for former sector are banks and cooperatives, and also you want to keep it in mind that in former sector, the terms of credit is fair and reasonable, and it involves many formalities. So next we are going to study about the main features of the informal source of credit. So once again, next we are going to study about the main features of the informal source of credit. Informal sector includes those small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of the government. So once again, informal sector includes those small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of the government. That means they are not under the control of the government. So they are not following the rules and regulations of the government. Compared to former source of credit, in informal source of credit, a high rate of interest is charged on loans. So once again, compared to the former source of credit, its rate of interest is very less. But in informal source of credit, high rate of interest is charged on loans. In informal sector, we can avail loans without any collateral and less documentation. So it involves less formalities also. Because of this, illiterate person prefer to take loans from this sector. So once again, in informal sector, we can avail loans without any collateral and less documentations. So as a result of this, as it involves less formalities, less collateral and less documentation. Because of all these, the illiterate persons prefer to take loans from this sector more. That means from the informal sector more. Another feature of the informal sector is that in its main motive is profit making only. Because when we compare to formal sector, their main motive is social welfare. But in informal sector, their main motive is profit making only, and they are less giving importance to the social welfare and well-being of the poor people. The main idea, the main aim behind these credits and loans is to earn more profit. In informal sector, there is no organization to supervise them. They don't want to follow any rules and regulations. In informal sector, those who are lending money is having the full freedom to do what they like. So once again, in informal sector, there is no organization like the RBI informal sector. Here, there is no organization to supervise them. They don't want to follow the government rules and regulations, and those who are lending money in an informal sector is having the full freedom to do what they like. In informal sector, poor household is mainly availing loans as they don't have the proper terms of credit to avail loans from the formal sector. That means from the commercial banks. So once again, another important feature or characteristics of this informal sector is that most of the loans are availed from the informal sector by the poor household in the rural areas because they don't have the proper terms of credit to avail loans from the formal sectors. As informal sector is not an organized sector, as it is an unorganized sector, so no systematic process is there, and often the informal sector indulges in malpractices to exploit the customers. So once again, as informal sector is not an organized sector, as it is an unorganized sector, no systematic process is there, and often they indulges in malpractices to exploit the customers. In informal sector, unorganized financial intermediaries do not maintain proper books of accounts. They do not charge uniform interest rate, and they always keep their business affairs confidential also. So once again, in informal sector, unorganized financial intermediaries do not maintain proper books of accounts, and they do not charge uniform interest rate, and they always keep their business affairs confidential. Another important feature of the informal sector is that in informal sector, the loans does not differentiate between loans for productive and unproductive purposes. These informal sectors, they easily give loans for unproductive purpose also, like loan for family matters, for illness, and for several other purposes also. This is also another characteristic feature of this informal sector. Another important problem of the informal sector is that repeated borrowing can lead the borrower to debt trap, mainly the poor people in rural areas. Then here we are studying a new concept, which is that it is a debt trap. So what is debt trap? Credit or loans in some cases pushes the borrower into a situation from which recovery is very painful. That situation is called as a debt trap. So once again, what is debt trap? Credit or loans in some cases, especially in rural areas, pushes the borrower into a situation from which recovery is very painful. That situation is called as a debt trap. Examples of informal sectors are money lenders, traders, friends, employers, relatives, and retailers. So once again, the examples of informal sectors are money lenders, traders, friends, employers, relatives, and retailers. From all these, we can understand that among the two types of sectors, formal sector is more important, because the first reason is that they were always supervised by the Reserve Bank of India, and they maintain all the formalities in the proper order. So next we want to study the importance of Reserve Bank of India, or the functions of Reserve Bank of India. So next we are going to study about the main functions of the Apex Bank of India, that is the main functions of the Reserve Bank of India, functions of RBI. The first main feature or function of the Reserve Bank of India is that the RBI supervises bank by laying down guidelines and norms, and always force the bank to follow these norms and guidelines while lending, that means loans to the borrowers, and also accepting deposit from the depositors. At all these transactions, everything, these commercial banks, they want to follow the guidelines and norms already declared by the Reserve Bank of India. RBI requires commercial banks to keep certain percentage of their deposit in cash and liquid assets. So RBI, they are always requiring, or they are always asking the commercial banks to keep certain percentage of their deposit as cash and liquid assets with them. The percentage that the commercial bank want to keep in their banks as cash or other liquid assets is called as statutory liquid ratio, and at present this liquid ratio is 15%. So once again, the percentage which the commercial bank want to keep as cash with them in the bank is called as statutory liquid ratio. At present the ratio is 15%. Reserve Bank of India also informed the commercial banks that after keeping a part of deposits in cash and other liquid assets, these banks can use their surplus funds to give loans. So once again, the Reserve Bank of India also informed the banks that after keeping a part of deposits in cash and other liquid assets, these commercial banks can use their surplus funds to give loans to the needy persons. Another main objective of RBI is to ensure the commercial banks to meet the withdrawal requirements of deposit holders. So, the main objective of RBI is to ensure the commercial banks to meet the withdrawal requirements of deposit holders. Another feature or function of the Reserve Bank of India is that the RBI issues guidelines for fixing rate of interest on borrowing and lending by commercial banks. So once again, RBI issues guidelines for fixing rate of interest on borrowing and lending of commercial banks. Reserve Bank of India directs the commercial banks to give a certain percentage of loans to priority sectors, which includes agriculture, small scale industries, self-help groups, etc. So once again, the Reserve Bank of India directs the commercial banks to give a certain percentage of loans to priority sectors, which includes agriculture, small scale industries, self-help groups, etc. Another main function of the Reserve Bank is that the Reserve Bank of India monitors the balance kept by commercial banks for day-to-day transactions. So once again, another important function of the RBI is that it monitors the balance kept by commercial banks for day-to-day transactions. Reserve Bank of India also checks that the commercial banks give loans not just to profit-making businesses and traders, but also to small borrowers. So once again, the Reserve Bank of India, it also ensures or checks that the commercial banks give their loans not just to these profit-making businesses and traders. That means those are having some economic development in their life, but also to very poor small borrowers. Periodically, every commercial bank have to give details about lenders, borrowers and interest rate to Reserve Bank of India. So once again, periodically every commercial bank in India have to give details about their lenders, their borrowers and their rate of interest to Reserve Bank of India. As it is necessary that the banks work for public welfare, Reserve Bank of India avoids the bank to run the business with profit motive only. And the Reserve Bank of India makes sure that the loans from the banks are affordable and cheap. So these are the main functions of the Reserve Bank of India. That's why it is considered as, because of all these functions, it is considered also as the apex bank of India. Next topic we want to study related to this chapter is formal and informal credit. Who gets what? Through this topic we want to understand about the importance of formal and informal sources of credit of people in urban areas. Here, with the help of this graph, it will be very easy for you to understand this topic. In this graph, the people are divided into 4 groups, from poor to rich. From this figure, it is very clear and understandable that 85% of the loans taken by the poor household in the urban areas are from the informal source of credit. and only 15% from the formal source of credit. And compare this with the rich household in urban areas, we can see that 90% they are availing loan from the formal sector, and 10% only they are availing loan from the informal sector. In the rural areas also we can see the same pattern. The rich household they are lending more from the formal sector, and the poor household they are lending more from the informal source of credit. From this, we can understand that the rich households are availing cheap credit from formal lenders, whereas the poor household have to pay a heavy price for borrowing. The main reason for this is that the formal sector still meets only about half of the total credit needs of the rural people. The remaining credit needs are met from the informal sources. So it is required to create awareness among farmers and poor household about formal sector loans, because most of the loans from informal lenders carry a very high rate of interest and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. Thus, it is necessary that the process of providing loans should be made easier, simple, fast, and timely. And the banks and the cooperatives increase their lending, particularly in rural areas, so that the dependence on informal source of credit should be reduced, and more number of nationalized banks and other types of banks should be agreed in rural sectors, and the benefits of loans should be extended to poor farmers and small scale industries. Always keep it in mind, while we want to extend the maximum, these formal sector loans also make it necessary and clear that everyone receives these formal loans in the rural areas, because the cost of informal loans is much higher and often leads to debt trap. Next topic we want to study in this chapter is the SHG, that is self-help groups for the poor women, especially in the rural area. So we are going to study in detail about the main features of SHG or self-help groups. So first we want to study what is SHG or self-help groups. So self-help groups are the groups created by needy persons themselves, especially women, to fulfill their credit and loan needs. So once again, the self-help groups are the groups created by the needy persons themselves, especially women, to fulfill their credit and loan needs. SHG, self-help groups, is a typical one which is having 15 to 20 members who meet and save regularly. So in SHG, there is no provision of certain number of members or certain amount to deposit. Members are free to their numbers and amount to deposit in the group. So another important feature of this SHG is that a typical SHG has 15 to 20 members who meet and save regularly. In SHG, there is no provision of certain number of members or certain amount to deposit. Members are free to their numbers and amount to deposit in this group. The SHG or self-help group encourages its members for savings and enable them to take loans, that means small loans from the group itself, to meet their needs. And this SHG, it helped the borrowers to overcome the problem of lack of collateral. That means if we are not having the collateral, that means any papers related to our buildings or vehicles or gold or anything, because terms of credit, this collateral is very important in commercial banks, all that. But this SHG, as a part of this SHG, if we are availing a loan without the collateral also, it is possible to get loans, and the members of SHG can get timely loans for a variety of purpose and at a reasonable interest rate also. So once again, the SHG encourages its members for saving and enable them to take small loans from the group itself to meet their needs. And it helped the borrowers to overcome the problem of lack of collateral. And this group can give timely loans for a variety of purposes at a reasonable interest rate. Savings per member in SHG varies from rupees 25 to rupees 100 or more depending on the ability of the people to save. So once again, savings per member in SHG varies from 25 rupees to 100 or more depending on the ability of the people to save. So the SHG or self-help groups are the building blocks of the organization of the rural poor. Not only does it help the women to be financially self-reliant, but at the same time it helps the women to overcome most of their problems. How? Because in these groups they are having regular meetings which provide a platform to discuss and act on a variety of social issues such as health, nutritious problems, domestic violence, and it also provides self-employment opportunities to its members by providing them loans for meeting the working capital needs for housing materials or for acquiring assets like sewing machines, handlooms, caring of cattle, etc. Thus, it helped to address the economic issues that is the base of many social issues. So once again, the self-help groups are considered as the building blocks of organizations of the rural poor, because it helped the women to be financially self-reliant, and it also gave them a platform to discuss most of the social issues they are facing, just like their health problems, nutrition problems, domestic violence, and also help them to be self-reliant by giving self-employment opportunities, by providing working capital for having housing materials or there's sewing machines, then handlooms or cattle like that. Thus, it helped to address the economic issues, the women's economic issues. That is the base of many social issues in their life. In SHG, most of the important decisions regarding the savings and loan activities are taken by the group members. That means the group decides as regards to the loan to be granted, for what purpose the loans to be granted, then how much amount to be granted, then what is the interest rate to be charged on the loans, and about the mode of repayment schedule also. So, in SHG, most of the important decisions regarding the savings and loan activities are taken by the group members. It means the group decides as regard to the loans to be granted, the purpose of the loans, the amount, how much amount to be granted, interest rate to be charged on the loans, and the mode of repayment. All these are decided by the group members itself. SHG. In SHG, the members are responsible for the group itself are responsible for the repayment of the loan. That means in any case of non-repayment of loan by any one of the members, then it is followed up very seriously by other members in the group. So once again, the SHG groups are always responsible for the repayment of the loans. That means the member in the group itself, they are always responsible for the repayment of the loans. In any case of non-repayment of loan by any one of the member, then it is followed up very seriously by the other members in the groups. Another important feature of the SHG group is that if the group is regular in savings, then it becomes eligible for availing loan from the bank. That means a loan is sanctioned in the name of the group, and it is meant to create self-employment opportunities for the members. So once again, if the group is regular in savings, it becomes eligible for availing loans from the bank, and the loan is sanctioned in the name of the group, and it's meant to create self-employment opportunities for the members. The SHG help the borrowers to overcome the problem of lack of collateral and documentation required also. If we are a member of this group, then there is no need of having collaterals and other detailed documentations, which is very important for the terms of credit. Apart from all these, if the group is regular in its savings, then they are availing the loans from the banks very easily. Thus, the SHG or self-help group help the poor in rural areas, especially the women, to overcome most of their problems by helping them to avail loans with the help of this group. That is the main objective or the main aim of this group, is to help the women, especially in the rural areas, to overcome most of their problems by helping them to avail loans with the help of this group. Next topic we want to study is the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. Just like SSG, this Grameen Bank is also helping the poor women in the rural areas in Bangladesh. The Grameen Bank of Bangladesh was founded by Professor Muhammad Yunus, and he is a Bangladeshi social entrepreneur, a banker, economist, civil society leader, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for founding the Grameen Bank and pioneering the concept of microcredit and microfinance. So once again, the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh was founded by Professor Muhammad Yunus. He is a Bangladeshi social entrepreneur, a banker, economist, civil society leader who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for founding the Grameen Bank and pioneering the concepts of microcredit and microfinance. Over the last 42 years, from 1976 to 2017, the operation of the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh spread over a large area of Bangladesh. The bank was started with a very small project, and in 2005 it spread across 40,000 villages with 6 million borrowers in various parts of Bangladesh. Most of the borrowers of the bank were women and poor people in the society. Poor women started many self-employment programs by taking loans from the Grameen Bank. So once again, over the last 42 years, from 1976 to 2017, the operation of the Grameen Bank spread to large areas of Bangladesh. The bank was started with a very small project, and in 2005 it spread across 40,000 villages with 6 million borrowers in various parts of Bangladesh. Most of the borrowers of the bank were women and poor people in the society. Poor women started many self-employment programs by taking loans from the Grameen Bank. The Grameen Bank plays a positive impact on poor women community in rural areas in Bangladesh by helping them to start a gainful employment, which help them not only to repay their loan but also to earn a good living for them and their families. So this Grameen Bank, it plays a positive impact on poor women community in rural areas, especially in Bangladesh, by helping them to start a gainful employment, which help them not only to repay their loan but also to earn a good living for them and their families. So now just have a quick recall of what we studied in this video. First, we studied about the terms of credit, the importance of terms and credit, and the new term also, that is collateral. What is collateral and what are the importance of collateral? Then we studied how we can avail a loan with the help of these terms of credit, with the help of a housing loan or home credit. Then about the different varieties of credits we are availing or loans we are availing in the rural areas, especially by the poor, and what were the problems they want to face as a result of these credits and loans. Then we studied about the role of cooperative societies and helping the poor people in the rural areas. The next topic we studied about the importance of the formal and informal source of credits, and what are the difference between the formal sectors and informal sectors in our society. Then with the help of a graph, we studied the importance of this formal sector and informal sector. Which sector is working more efficiently in our society. Then The last we studied about the self-help groups or SHG, which is helping mainly the poor women in the society, and what are the main features or characteristics of this SHG. Then also about the Grameen Banks of Bangladesh and about the famous personality Muhammad Yunus, who is always behind this great success of this Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. My dear children, please watch the video very carefully, copy down all the important points and read your textbook 3 or 4 times. Okay, thank you.